All right, Fox Body Mustang guys. We're going to talk about the IAC, idle air control, or the idle air control valve, also known as idle air control solenoid. So first off, how does it work? Fuel injection system here, mass airflow or speed density. It would work the same way. The intake air, okay, comes in here. The throttle body has a valve, right? Has a butterfly valve, and its restriction or allowance of air into the manifold is what drives your throttle. So in the case of a mass airflow system, this is the meter, okay? So metered air has to travel through here. So as the throttle body allows air through, you suck more air across the math, and it tells the computer, hey, there's more air, there's more throttle, so give it more fuel. You also have a throttle position sensor. However, I'm not going to talk about that right now. Technically, these cars can work without the throttle position sensor. I actually forget what the specifics are, what the computer does with the throttle position sensor, but I'll go into that later. But with the the whole point of this is I do idle control, and if you're having problems with your idle, you might want to look here first. So I've got one off the car, but I'll show from here. Inside the throttle body, right around here's where your butterfly valve is. Okay, so there's a port here and a port here on each side of that plate. So then the IAC has a little U, passage, and the plunger moves up and down to control that. So it's a finer tuning of the throttle, essentially doing throttle for you, but at a finer level. It shouldn't be more than, I don't know the range, but generally a few hundred RPM, 500 RPM, something like that. Somebody else welcome to comment in the section. But the point is, it's a lower range, finer tuning range of the idle, and allows the computer to adjust the idle. So the thing you can do if you're having throttle issues or idle issues is take the IAC off the car. I've got one over here, and the first thing I do, okay, here's the bottom. So it's like this, right? So this is the bottom port, or we call atmosphere. It's the air coming in from the MAF, and you should be able to blow on this port and not have a ton of air push through. It should definitely be restrictive, relatively restrictive. So let's try this. All right, I don't know if you can hear that. That's a lot of air. That's too much air. This IAC, in my opinion, was bad. I swapped it for a new one on my car, and the new one does not flow that much. So you can clean these if they're sticking. So cleaning them for sticking is different. If the plunger is activating, and you can actually rig up a 12-volt source with a fuse to test these. I've done that, and I can show that later. But assuming they're not sticking, the plunger can still allow more air through than it should, and that can cause a high idle, because when it's closed, it shouldn't allow that much through. So you can test also that you don't have a vacuum leak. There is a gasket, okay, for these, and your gasket should be in good shape. Gasket's hardened up. I have a new gasket on the replacement, but a vacuum leak would be two vacuum leaks on this are possible. The most common would be the gasket being damaged right here. So it would allow air in that's unmetered air, right? So it sucks air across that gasket surface on either side of this, especially if you have a bad valve. Then it's going to allow air in through the throttle that is unmetered. And if you've got much fuel, enough fuel, it'll cause your idle to race. The other possibility especially on one with a poorly machined or poor tolerances, is that there. Okay, it's possible that you can blow air through these, and that little surface here, which I don't think there's I've never seen a gasket for these, but you could make one if there's a concern. I think these are supposed to be well machined, and this part should mate with that cylinder well enough that I don't have an issue. I've never had an issue with air pulling through there. But you could test that as well by plugging your thumb over this one, blowing through that, and seeing if you get any air. But I would do that by make sure you screw the solenoid back on. If you want to clean these, pull the solenoid off. Okay, you definitely don't want to drop the solenoid down into some clean solution. I shorted one out that way. I think I tested it too soon before it was dried. It may have been some other reason. I'm not sure what happened, but I believe it was due to the way I cleaned it. But you can definitely drop these down. I use some like carburetor. I don't use the heavy duty stuff. I use the brake cleaner, and you can drop these down and soak them. Some people say overnight, and then just drain them, blow them out with the air tool and let them dry. Put them back together. So hopefully that helps you understand the way the IAC works. And if again, you've got too much air, buy a new one, put it on. It should be restrictive enough to control the throttle. And I don't know, I suppose it could be a few hundred RPMs, 500 RPMs. If it's really blowing a lot of air through there, it makes a difference. It makes a difference on my car. So try it out.